Dan, you're on with Ethan and Jenna, and it looks like you wanted to. The auto screener says you want to talk about metal, but
mental health.
You don't want to talk about metal. Dan?
Hello?
Hey.
Hi.
Hello? Hi. No, I didn't. I think that you were misunderstood. What I wanted to talk about was mental health.
Yes, we were teasing.
Right.
It just changed it to metal.
But I also wanted to touch on a point that doesn't get brought up very often, I think, which is that I think it's so important to remember that what we now call art had to be liberated in the Middle Ages by the Enlightenment. And what I mean by that is, I think we forget that in the Middle Ages, if you were just an ordinary person who wanted to experience, say, music, your only option was to go to church.
Mm.
Really?
If you wanted
At that time, yeah.
Yes, for the most part. If you wanted to feel, the exultant power of painting or sculpture or any of those things, all of that was really incumbent upon the church for the most part. And so, with the rise of the Enlightenment, with the rise of Elizabethan theater, with all of that, with secularism, art was really freed and able, this is why I make the argument that Beethoven is as much a problem for the Christian church as Darwin.
I haven't heard that.
Well, again, if you wanted, there was a time when musicians, were pretty, and artists and sculptors and so forth, they all pretty much worked for the church.
Right.
Only they were the only ones who could afford to pay them.
Right.
And so once artists were able to find patrons outside the church, and once they were able to really pursue their own visions, and once literacy became more universal, it opened things up in ways that they never could have before.
Yeah. So what time period was this? Like 1600s? 17?
I would say again, different historians, debate when the Enlightenment began. I tend to go with Voltaire, with about the 15th, 16th century. Again, when you look at the last 500 years, when you think about the things we have now compared to what they had back then, and frankly, artists are freer now than they've ever been in history.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, we can sell. That's the thing. Like I have carrot noises. I have a stream that I do on Fridays where I paint, and I was able to sell a piece of art through that. I mean, that kind of thing would not have happened so many years ago. It's crazy where we've come.
And I also wanted to touch on a point you made earlier, Jenna, which was you said you don't really care for the paintings of Picasso.
Right. I appreciate them and I respect him as an artist. I just don't get anything out of it.
Well, I wasn't gonna pick on you. I was
okay.
really going to say that it's been said that great art belongs in museums and good art belongs in homes. People who understand art better than I do have said that the value of somebody like Picasso or Renoir or Rembrandt or Monet or so forth is not merely in their work, but the fact that you can look at the history of art and you can see, well, the reason why we have what we have now is because of this and because of this and because of this. Any screenwriter in Hollywood will, if they know what they're talking about, will say, yes, of course, I wouldn't be able to do what I do were it not for Shakespeare.
Right. Whether you like Shakespeare or not.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a writer, and I can tell you that the sort of like the basic 3-act structure of every story, whether it's War and Peace or an episode of Seinfeld, goes back to Aristotle.
And
so again, whether you were to say, well, I'm not really a fan of Aristotle, I don't really care for Aristotelian drama, I'd be like, okay, then you don't really like anything that's been done in the last 2,000 years.
So is it just the fact that it's survived that long?
Well, I've often, as a writer, I appreciate the fact that I think we as human beings are what I call a narrative species. And what I mean by that is we tell stories just as a part of who we are. I think this is why the Bible has held the power that it's held for so long, and why the fact that we now tell other stories has sort of forced it to become increasingly less relevant. I know people get mad at me for saying this, but I personally think that Christmas Carol by Dickens is far more edifying in terms of teaching morals than really anything in the New Testament. Just personal opinion. I still love watching. As a matter of fact, my favorite version of that movie is on YouTube for free. It's a 1950 odd version with Alistair Sim.
Oh, cool.
But no, I think that there is a history to these things that I just don't think a lot of people really appreciate, and I'm glad you do. Again, you don't have to love Picasso to understand that his contribution influenced later generations. So, which is why we have, he was a huge influence on Salvador Dali and on, many a film director and so on and so forth. So.
Right. The fact that I'm able to look at a canvas and have this image in my head of what I'm trying to create has been created because of all of the pieces of art that I've already seen and gathered and learned from and been able to collect whatever it was that, struck me. And so I've said this before, I'm a collection of everything and everyone that I've ever come across before. And so having seen Picasso, having seen so many different kinds of artists has probably created whatever kind of artist I am today.
I completely agree with that. I got into this argument one day with somebody who was a fellow writer who said that they were striving for perfection. And I said, perfection is the worst possible goal for an artist. And he said, what do you mean? Yeah. And I said, well, imagine a museum dedicated to perfection. What would it look like? It would be filled entirely with blank canvases.
Yeah.
Because of course, and of course the curator, would have to answer the question. Well, you'd go in and say, well, what's the point of this? And the curator would say, well, what's more perfect than a completely blank canvas? Why would you ruin it with paint?
Yeah.
And
right.
So you can't have perfect. So I think that the artist isn't seeking perfection, but to the main point, I really think that to a large extent, art is both therapeutic and sort of says out loud what a lot of us are feeling and thinking.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Just one quick example. The greatest play ever written, Hamlet, was written by Shakespeare after he lost his only son, whose name was Hamnet.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Jenna, I'm actually really glad we did this topic because just Dan, I'm learning a lot from you as well.
Yeah, I hope you call again, please.
So when Jenna had first suggested art to me, I had thought, I don't know that I can contribute, or I don't know how much I can learn from this, but dude, I'm learning a lot from this episode. So thank you both, Dan and Jenna.
Yeah.
Oh, well, send me a friend request.
Yeah. Go ahead and subscribe and we'll be able to find you.
Yeah. And you're welcome to, I don't accept all, but I accept most Facebook friend requests. If you want to find me, it's facebook.com/Ethan F. Micheal. I am less like, I know most people advise against this, but I'm more likely to accept friend invites because I just want to expose people to what I'm doing. So the more people, especially outside of the atheist community, that see what I'm doing, that gets my message out there more.
Keep in mind there is a maximum limit.
I know.
I'm almost there.
I was thinking about do I gotta start deleting people now?
Right. So it's like now I'm being a little bit pickier. So yes, friend request us each, and we will try to get there. Keep in touch.
I'm not only am I on your friend list, Jenna, but I actually shared a piece of my own art on your wall 10 minutes ago. So,
oh, nice, cool. I'll have to check it out.
So, I'm a writer, and I found a vehicle for my writing, which is to say I make memes in the form of almost like cartoon strips. So.
Oh, cool.
I am real quick. I'm gonna. Is your last name? Does your last name start with an H?
Yes, my full name is Daniel Hetman Spurger, but most of my followers know me as the God of Cities.
Okay, I didn't
Okay.
want to say your name out loud just in case you didn't want it said out loud. Here we go. Let me just make sure there's nothing. Okay.
Turn it up.
Let me
I know it's a big unwieldy German name.
If we do not
That's
stop
okay.
Donald Trump in 2020, there will be no federation. How do you intend to break into the White House, Spock? Leave that to me, Doctor. You sure no one will notice? This was just the standard clothing of the
Wait, I missed it. You should no one notice us. This was a standard. Oh.
Awesome. All right, Dan, we gotta get to our next caller, but thank you so much. It was nice getting to talk to you, and hopefully I'll see you on Facebook soon. Actually, I'll just send you a friend request right now.
I very much appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you so much for calling. Have a good one.